then Marcus is just going to quickly talk about the markets. We've also got a bell out from Spain on pheromones, and I'll just let Danny Thornton just quickly introduce a bell.
Now?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Laney. Must have been last year, I think. John Chevrolet and Mildura Fruit Company went across to Spain with the Southern Cross Farms group of companies, and they went to a couple of farms which were organically certified. And I think, John, you were there at the time. There was some really interesting discussion around the use of pheromones on these particular organic orchards. Some organic, some not organic. And so there's been quite a bit of discussion over the last probably month while John's been some of the orchards with some of the issues with scale that we have. And it was felt that it would be a great opportunity for Abel to come across, and he's got extensive knowledge in this market, worked in this market, pheromone market, for 30 years. And so he was gracious enough to come across at our invitation and spend a little bit of time here in Australia talking to industry and talking to growers and to exporters as well. So Abel comes from Barcelona. He'll speak a little later, is that right?
Yeah.
A little later on, and he has some really interesting things to say around pheromones for red scale. It's commercial now for 2 years in Spain. We haven't really seen it over here before. It's not registered for us, but we have had some discussions with Citrus Australia around trying to speed up a registration process or a permit. So I'm sure you'll find the discussion quite interesting. Abel, I'd like to thank you for coming, and thanks for the opportunity for the guys to have you along.
Thank you for inviting.
Hi everyone. This time I've been here for basically more than a month, and I think has been a very interesting time. I haven't been this particular time for the last few years, and I've been trying to get a good understanding about the season. First of all, and will be one person familiar with this sentence there. Hi John, I'm out in Western Australia, and they're struggling with albedo breakdown in their neighbours. They have a strong calcium program, but have crap soils. They can get on top of it other chemical options they should be considering. I received this email, and my mind was the opposite. I've never seen so late in the season finishing Washington neighbours with fruit that is so strong. Very minimum albedo breakdown, just the odd fruit inside the tree where it's more difficult to get coverage. The fruit is firm. All our customers that have been coming to the shed, the buyers, very happy, finishing, and the marketers extremely happy. A number of years, for the last few years, we've been improving on albedo breakdown and firmness. You know, the Chinese market, really, firmness is everything. They associate a soft fruit with all fruit, and they are very tight with their requirements. This year, as I said, was unbelievable. We are finishing the season now with Washington neighbours, and we said, oh, we finished Washington neighbours, when every other season said, oh my God, we finished Washington neighbours. This sets really the scene, and there are two things that we have done that is a credit to all of you. First, to the growers by doing everything, and also to grower services, to MFC Grower Services, to put the ideas through and put the recommendations. We've done this year, and we had some interesting discussions over the phone when I was in Spain, and part of the discussions I was in the States in December and in January, how we were going to approach the summer GA. And at the end, we saw that it was very hard. We thought, oh my God, it's going to be chances for weak fruit. because we're putting the fruit through a stream situation. Maybe the root system is not going to be able to uptake all the nutrients because the stomata were closed, because the trees were shut down. I mean that, let's do everything we can to prevent albedo breakdown. What we did, we put compulsory GA in summer, 20 parts per million. No questions asked. A set rate. We took all this into consideration, and the results have been fantastic. This spray is a spray that doesn't have any effect in our conditions, in Australian conditions, or in Mildura and around Mildura area conditions, on the color of the fruit, the final color of the fruit, or any delay in color of the fruit, but it really has a strong help with albedo, along with calcium and other things that we could add on. But it's a very important one. And the second one was at calibrate. We were having discussions, and what should we do at calibrate? Last year we put GA spray 90% full color, and did work. We had beta fruit for the marketers to sell, but still wasn't the fruit that we would like to have at the time. Then we know that if we put GA earlier than 90% calibrate, meaning at the start of calibrate, we have a much better effect, but it delays the color a little bit, and it may have an influence, a change in flowering the following year, may reduce the flowers. Then we have some discussions, 5 parts per million, and we said, look, any fruit that the growers anticipate that is going to be picked after the 1st of July, let's put 5 parts per million. We did this spray early enough to try to minimize any effect on flower induction for the following year, and I think the result has been fantastic. The fruit is very strong, and very happy with this. This is fruit that hasn't got GA at color break, and this is fruit from basically a week ago. The typical characteristic when the fruit passes its time, intense color, a texture that is a different texture. You actually can start getting some smell on the fruit that it's ripe, and you can start getting some skin breakdown problems. And this is basically off the tree. It wasn't after storage. Last week we went to an orchard and we saw this big mess. This is what happens if you don't mix. That was the pH was too low. In fact, the grower didn't know what was the pH. Just put a pH buffer, and thinking that was the right thing to do. As we put in the communications at color break, you should not drop the pH too low, because the GA works too well. And when there is, you can see where it's running. It's really messy, really messy. We're going to talk a little bit about fertilizer applications and foliar sprays. These photos were taken yesterday. This means that the trees are moving, and this is too early. This is probably 10 days, maybe 2 weeks earlier. Still we can have very low temperatures. This means that it's too early. A week ago we started seeing this, and we are going to put a communication to you probably tomorrow, telling you that for the next 3 or 4 weeks, don't do any sprays on GAs or urea. Don't put any GAs, because if you put GAs now, you are going to reduce the ability for the trees to reflower if there is a frost. This means that, and we don't know if there is going to be a frost, but we need to always think about the worst case scenario. This means that no GAs, and we don't want to put ureas now, because if we put ureas, we are going to make the tree move faster, and we don't want the tree to move faster. We want the tree to hang on until we have a more constant and better temperatures. So yeah, just be very careful, and we are going to have this note. We're not going to go over this. We've been thinking about how we are going to we want to revisit all the foliar sprays that we are doing. One thing that has been also impacting into me these few days is how everyone is very worried about water and how the water is going to impact on the cost of production. This means that everyone is concerned that how the money is going to be spent, because water is going to take so much money. Then, thinking about this, we'll try to do as less sprays as possible and trying to be as tight in terms of the number of sprays and thinking quite seriously about how we can manage with this. And we are going to think not just the early part of the season, we are thinking the season as a whole. Just one example. We're working on a project, and we are not going to talk today about this project, about water deficit irrigation. This year we have the best eating fruit that I've seen for many years. And now, and this is a very good year to prove to our customers that come to Australia to buy the fruit, because Australia, right now we have, comparing with South Africa, same varieties, we are probably 1.5 breeds different, even 2. This means that this is obvious enough to try to maintain a price difference. Otherwise, you don't have a good case scenario, you don't have an argument to maintain the price. Is that we're going to talk about, we're going to work on water deficit irrigation, but before doing any water deficit irrigation, we need to make sure that we have the right size. Because one thing that comes with water deficit irrigation, obviously, is improving breed, improve acid, reducing albedo, we've seen this year, very interesting, improving color, very interesting, but it comes with a package, reducing size. And we reduce between 2 and 3 millimeter sizes. This means that before losing the size, we need to make for the size. And this doesn't come 2 weeks before start water deficit irrigation. This means that we are going to focus completely this year, thinking that we want to have the best possible size, and we're not going to do water deficit irrigation everywhere. We're going to do trials, and we are going to do it when we can lose 2 or 3 millimeters. Fertilizer program, the focus for this year. As I said, we're going to focus on size, albedo breakdown. Albedo breakdown can create a lot of problems with us. It's not just the pack outs that you lose, that obviously is an important factor. Is that the fruit that doesn't go, the fruit that is not removed from the box, it has high chances to create a problem. First of all, because the weight can split the fruit, and secondly, because this fruit is going to be soft. This means that you're going to lose either way. This means that the customer is not going to be happy, and there are chances to claim. Then, in terms of how we manage albedo breakdown in the shed, we have a good grader. Next year we are going to have even a better grader, but not really very smart managing albedo breakdown, because it's very difficult. It's difficult when it's just starting for the naked eye for us. It's more difficult for intelligent vision. This means that it's not that intelligent. Then we want to make sure that we don't want albedo breakdown, and this means that we are going to focus on what we have learned this season. This means that we are going to put even more focus on the summer GA and at Calabre. Farmers, as I said, if we want to be in China, and we want to maintain our strong position in China, particularly when Chile is around the corner. And don't be foolish. Chile kicked us out of the market in the US. Don't think, Chileans only have nether courts, because this is where they have. Chileans have nether courts, and they are sending a lot of neighbors to the States, and they will move 100% because those are Chileans, and I know they're Chilean. They are going to move 100% into China. This means that we need to have a superior product. It needs to be sweeter and firmer. And we need to focus on this. In color, we need to have good color. In this year, we suffered some of the problems with color. Then we need to focus on calcium, potassium. We need to go with early applications. Potassium, early applications. We want to reduce potassium nitrate in late in the season, and probably we need to focus more on monopotassium phosphates that will help with color. Nowadays, the difference in price per unit of potassium between potassium nitrate and monopotassium phosphate is not that big. Let's say $1 per unit, and if at the end we only put 30 units or 40 units, it's going to be $30 or $40 per hectare, which is not going to be the end of the world. And we want to do everything possible to have the best color and the best skin finish for the fruit. This means that in general, we want to move the programs a little bit earlier. Always happens the same. When we are in February, we always try to catch up. We are always behind. We always have hot temperatures in summer. This means that we should learn from that. Let's move things forward. Let's move things more in the November, December that is not so hot, and let's be a little bit advanced. We're not going to go through this. This is a fertilizer program. We are going to review this, and I'll pass it on to Marcus.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to back up what Johnny said on the GA as well. We had a stack of customers come out the last 3 or 4 weeks, to be honest, and everyone we've taken to, they've just been really happy with the quality of the Washingtons. Like John said, we noticed a pattern in the last sort of 3 or 4 years. The Chinese, not just the Chinese, most Asians were reducing their orders over the last period of the Washington harvest and waiting for the late rains to kick in, which we haven't noticed this year. Sorry, just want to quickly touch base on, I guess, a seeded flores, and I'm sort of knocking on the door the last couple of years on this subject. I've just got up a list of specs here, and I'll just really quickly run through them. First one's UK, which is a large conglomerate in Europe, UK. They supply the likes of Sainsbury's, Tesco, and those people, and their seed tolerances is literally 3%. Halos USA, which is wonderful citrus, theirs is 6%. San LaSalle, which is another large European conglomerate, they're at 10% and a maximum of 3 seeds per fruit out of a 100-piece sample. Costco Global, so that's your big supermarkets in the States and worldwide, to be honest, they're at 10% and no more than 4 seeds per 100-piece. Closer to home, we have now the Tango, which is in the Coles. Theirs is a little bit lighter, 2 seeds per 50 pieces. Coles introduced something to combat the Delight, which is they're calling Coles Amore, which is 3 seeds, and obviously the Delight, which has been in Woolworths for some time. So this is what's happening now globally, and there's no doubt the trend is to be seedless down the track. So trying to meet the first 4 is very tough. You've effectively got to have a complete seedless patch or a seedless equivalent to make that spec. The domestic ones are a little bit lighter on. So my take on where do we go with, I guess, seeded fruit. At the moment, the domestic market, Coles and Woolies are still running that seeded line, and LDR as well into a bag. But there's no doubt that'll phase out very quickly as more Tango come on, as some more starts to grow. They'll reduce that amount on the shelf, and I think if you go to a local supermarket here, you can see that shelf for the seeded fruit getting less and less. Canada is a good market for seeded fruit at the moment, but that's short term as well. You have the South Africans, the Chilean Peruvians pushing seedless fruit in there, so that's only a matter of time as well. European, there's spot markets through Germany and a few other places where we can access, but that's temporary as these other seedless volumes grow. Asia is exactly the same. I mean, you've got the South Africans pushing a heap of Clement Gold through these countries now. New Zealand, as the volumes grow here, they'll become seedless in the near future. India, okay at the moment, but really don't want to go, the prices are terrible. Middle East is very much the same. It's a market of last resort of seeded fruit, and you're at the mercy of pretty poor pricing. And I guess we've worked really hard to sell seeded fruit in the past, and will continue to do so. And the returns probably haven't warranted real action plans. But I mean, my take is that time is coming. It's coming very soon. You really need to do some work on their seeded patches, because you might sell it next year, and you could well sell it for the next 10 years, but the price every year is just going to decrease, and it's going to be, sort of at that balance line. What do you do with the fruit? And the other interesting fact is, speaking to a couple of Costa guys last week, they've just got a capex to spend $6.5 million over the next 2 years to put up permanent structures all over their seeded and flora patches at the moment, which will in verse add more pressure under the domestic supermarket scene. So that's just a quick overview, I guess, of the seeder/seed category. I'm not sure if anyone's got any questions. Matt, you something different to that, or you're a teenager, you're not the same thing? Yeah.
No, it's clearly where the world's going. Yeah. And I think it will come very quick. It'll be, 1 year will be fine, and next year, and that's what happened in America. You just can't sell it.
Yeah, and that
just can't.
And we're very close to that now. I mean, we've had some significant programs in the coals, and it still is, but it's getting eroded every year as these other lines come in. So we go straight on to the marketing side of things. Mate?
Yeah, mate.
Yep. So just head on to other markets, and I'll push through this pretty quickly. And again, if you've got any questions, just yell out. Just on the USA, we've sent, I guess, lighter volumes this year, and that's probably due to more of the fruit quality. Fruit's been a little bit smaller, a little bit more blemished. The USA tend to take that sort of 64 and larger count, which has been in short supply, so numbers have been reduced. The outturns I've had today have been really, really good. The daisies that we've sent have been well received and outturned well, and from a Mandarin point of view, we're just about to embark on our seedless Sephora program to the States. Wrapping on to Canada. Canada's been good, takes a lot of composite grade fruit for us. It's probably one of those only true markets now that's not a non-protocol market, so it is open. And obviously being an open market, it's really influenced by other countries. Your South Africans hit it really hard, Chile's hit it really hard. So it is a bit of a, it's a bit of a dumping ground for all varieties, I guess. It does take a lot of composite grade fruit, which we've needed this year because there's been a lot of composite grade fruit around. Again, with the mandarins, we've just started our program there. And as I said, it always comes under a little bit of pressure later in the season as these other countries kick into gear. Vietnam's been really good, but again, with limited supplies, Vietnam's another big fruit market. We probably should have utilised it more early, to be honest, but we pushed a bit more into China. The Caracaras we've sent there have outturned. We've had a first arrival outturned really well, and that'll be a really good market down the track. Again, that takes that medium to large size fruit. And we'll certainly be looking to send larger volumes of late season fruit there. Surprisingly, India's been really good this year. Well, I shouldn't say surprising, it's always been a reasonable market, but it's taking a good chunk of that small size composite grade fruit that initially we thought we'd had a headache with. The Nagalinas and the Washies initially were pretty untidy, and they've taken it and then paid really good money. I guess you sort of asked why didn't South Africa flood it. South Africa crop is a little bit lighter this year and the fruit is a little bit bigger, and they've really overlooked India and pushed a lot of that fruit into Asia instead. And we'll do our first of fours into India this year and hope we continue to grow that. The general Malaysian area, Southeast Asia, has been short of fruit. Again, that's the quality and the size of the crop that we've had. Hong Kong, Hong Kong has been, there's two channels into Hong Kong, one is retail, one is wholesale. We supply two of the major supermarkets there, Park and Shop and Welcome. They take both large class 1 fruit, obviously they've been undersupplied. And then you've got the flip side, which is a wholesale market, and that's been dominated by composite grade fruit, so that's been pretty challenging. Japan, that's been excellent. It's an established market. It takes first grade fruit, composite grade fruit, and a blend of fruit, so their volumes are up this year. Singapore's a bit like Hong Kong. There's two channels. It takes first grade, second grade. Volumes have been steady. Korea's been really good this year. The inspector, and we always had hurdle with the inspector, she's come out this year a little bit more tolerant than we've had in the past. I think we've had 2 out of about 18 or something now, only 4 passed and 2 failed, so that's been good. And we're actually hoping to extend the Korean inspector for another 4 weeks, trying to keep her out here so we can keep that Korean program going. Thailand's been a real surprise this year. Again, we worked pretty hard in the pre-season knowing there's going to be a lot of composite grade fruit and smaller fruit, and they've really come on board. And Thailand's been dominated predominantly by easy peel mandarin, so it's good to get a leg in the door there. Now just moving on to China, I guess. You can probably bundle the other markets up, and they've been really, really good. Then you can come to China, and at the moment it's really, really tough. And there's probably a lot of reasons why it is. And the main thing is really it's just the sheer volume that's gone into China that's just causing a bit of a stagnant market. You know, if you look at some of the reports that are floating around at the moment, I mean, South Africa shipped 700 containers, dispatched 700 containers last week. The whole Australian dispatched 70. So I mean, Egypt is still pumping. You've got Peru, Spanish food is still floating there. So it is a bit tough, and I guess, you know, we're at that crossroad. Is you've got the Vietnams that were short supplied, you've got the USA that was short supplied, Hong Kong, Singapore, and I guess, you know, in hindsight's a wonderful thing, but should have we pushed more of that fruit into other markets? Maybe, but price difference is quite significant. We've pushed lemons in there for the first time this year, so we've known that lemon wave has come for a little while. First arrivals are next week, so we've done 6 containers so far, which is a new one. We've been trying to, I guess we've been trying to export lemons for many years to take the pressure off the domestic market, and we've had some various successes. But you know, last year we shipped quite a bit to other protocol markets, and that turned very well. So we're hopeful that'll continue. As mentioned, the China market is the last great market for seeded fruit, so we'll embark on our Aphora program there. We've been pretty creative on some of the packaging this year. We've done some bagging lines of fruit. We've done some specials, just trying to move more of that, I guess, composite grade fruit. And I guess the question you probably we ask ourselves is, did we pitch too high? We knew the fruit was a little bit short, class 1 fruit, so as we always do, you just keep pitching it higher and higher and higher, and sort of got to that stage now where, you know, if you come back a little bit, would the fruit move through the channel a little bit? So this just, I guess, just a snapshot of what's into the China market. It's not I don't want to paint a picture of disaster, or it's not doom and gloom, anything like that. The market is just a bit tougher fruit at the moment, but the bad guys tell us that'll clear. It's just going to take a little bit of time. So this is just a bit of fruit that is pushing in there and pushing in the reasonable volumes. You've got Egyptian Valencias, the Peruvians are pushing W. Mercots or Aphoras and Tangos in there. South Africa, like I said, have shipped incredible volumes this year. But that's the size of the fruit they had, probably opposite to us. Their crop is light, the bigger size fruit, so China was probably the opposite obvious market. You've got the Spanish with Pals, still shipping Valencias, and normally they wouldn't do that. I mean, they shipped Valencias this year because they knew Australia was going to be lighter class 1 fruit, so they directed all their normal fruit that would go to these other markets into China. Morocco's got the Midnight or Valencias pushing in there. Obviously Australia's got the Aphora out of Queensland at the moment. We've got Nova's Caracara and 2PH Amaret. The USA fruit's still floating through there, and Uruguay's got Clemenvillia pushing through. So again, the market's not going to fall over or anything like that. It's just a little bit stagnant at the moment. I guess I'm just trying to bring it to head that we haven't got the market to ourselves. There is other market influences in that market. We still have a far superior product, and as we'll always sell over these navel varieties, it's just probably trying to alleviate some of that pressure to some of these other markets. I think that was it for me, Johnny. Any questions on that one, guys? Or
Okay, yeah, we're going to talk about Aphoras and seedless and seeds. First of all, this photo was taken last week at Coles here in Mildura. You can see prices. This is selling prices, obviously. This is seeded Aphora, and this is Amor. this is seedless. As you can see, there is a 40% less price. A month ago, when I arrived to Australia, I took some photos. Actually, we had the day at the Ruby GS day at Dayton, and I said that in the European supermarkets you have two clear lines or more of mandarins. Some very basic, and then you escalate in prices. Can't remember exactly the price that it was on Imperial that week, and there are more from Queensland, but the difference in price was 70% between a good variety, seedless or newer variety, and an Imperial. And when you talk to the growers and talk to the public, the Australian public in general, say, Imperials is the best thing in the world, and yeah, Imperials always are going to be part of the Australian culture, and all of this. But keep one thing in mind, the supermarkets are making more money with the seedless Afurers, Tangos. This means that what they are going to sell, the seedless Afurers and the Tangos, rather than the old baggers, the Imperials. This means that, yeah, a picture makes, tells a lot. Now, we need to go seedless. It's absolutely clear. Anyone that is not thinking clearly on this is going to have a problem. Maybe not next year, maybe the year after. The difficulty is that we will not be able to anticipate the year that we are going to have the problem. It happened to us with Ellendale. We were seeing with Ellendale, we had the glorious days in the States, and I was working as operations manager and managing the US program in those days. And it was fantastic, yeah. With 1 year crop of Ellendale and Tangelos was the same situation. You could buy the land and the water and the equipment with just 1 year. They're all good days. And we were saying that, yeah, Ellendales were starting to get, dropping in as a choice for the retailers. But yeah, everyone's saying, I should be right, mate. Yeah, no problem. And something happened. And what happened was the Afurers. The rest of the world, they started to grow Afurers and they started to get them in the market. And it went from one season to the next, we couldn't sell them. And it was a disaster. In one season, I think it was top work or pull out 90%, and probably that was more Danny's time than my time. I think at that time I was coming only as a consultant and probably was easy seeing from outside. But it was very painful. That means that it's going to happen. We don't know when, but it's going to happen. And keep one thing in mind. It's going to happen faster than what you think. Because we did a tour to Chile and Peru just a few months ago. And everyone was focusing on seedless fruit. The reason being is because, particularly in Chile, because last year Chile had a huge problem in the States. They moved too much fruit into the market. Chileans, not very organized in the sense of working together. Everyone thinks that it's smarter than the neighbor, and yeah, I'm going to put fruit, and yeah. And anyway, it was an increase in volume from 1 year to the next into the States. Do you know what happened? The seedless fruit went through, and everyone was saying, no, it's seedless, yeah, all checks, and there were some of the new guys in the business. Hallows was the first year that imported fruit always, and they thought that they were getting imported seedless fruit, and guess what? Was seeded, and quite seeded, and they started cutting fruit at arrivals, and the true seedless fruit was sold at very good prices and quickly. But the fruit that, when cutting the fruit, were seeing seed, was being kept for later, and this fruit was being sold in December when I was trying to sell clementines from Spain, when California was trying to sell clementines from Spain, when Morocco was trying to sell clementines in the States. Do you know what happened? Complete disaster. Then Chileans, quite smart. What they did this year, every orchard netting, because they knew they don't want to be the last one being sold, and they know that this year Howell is going to cut the fruit in Chile. In fact, Howell has QC people this year in Chile cutting the fruit because they don't want to have surprises, and they are not going to have surprises this year. That means that, yeah, that's just an example, and we really need to be very careful with seeds because it's going to bite us quickly, and I wouldn't like to be. I want to make sure that you have the message in the best possible way to make the decision that you have to do in time to avoid a disaster. Anyway, keep going. Orchard hygiene. What we can do to minimize seeds? We need to minimize seeds. Orchard hygiene. Guys, I've seen some orchards with suckers that flower. And if you have suckers that flower, you can have, unless that you have tango, you are going to have seeds, even if you don't have other varieties around. It's crazy. This means that, yeah, it's just cut the suckers. Be careful. Monitor this. Be careful. Copper sulfate sprays. These can reduce a little bit the seeds, but it's not a solution. We tried this in Spain for many years. It's not a solution, but you may feel a little bit better. So look, I've done something. What copper sulfate does is can abort the pollinic tube of the seed and of the flower, sorry, and of the pollen. And yeah, you may reduce a number of seeds, but you need to repeat the sprays, and it's not a solution. Orchard netting, orchard maybe require long term. I know that this is a bad word here in Australia. You speak to anyone and say, John, netting in Australia doesn't work. All right. It's too windy. Fair enough. It's very windy in Spain. In Spain it's more windy than here. In certain parts of Spain we have a lot of wind and we do netting. We've been in certain parts of, we were in this trip to Peru, and you think, okay, here could be a little bit windy and may require a little bit more management to have the nets stable, to avoid to be lifted and getting bees underneath. But we were to one of the orchards in Chile, in the north, near Serena, and rocks everywhere. I don't know how tractors can go through there. This means that imagine with an arm trying to put the net on top, and really difficult. And the guys were putting the net because a village that was 1 kilometer away had the odd trees that flower, and they wanted to protect them because that company was marketing and grower, all the same company. This means that they knew what was happening when the fruit had seeds before. That means that, yeah, it's really important. We need to take into consideration several things for the nets to work. One, don't keep the nets on the trees any longer than is needed, because then you start getting undesirable effect. Once you start getting fruit set and it start growing and the nets are there, and the wind, you can have a grabbing. Not just this, you can have a fruit drop, but maybe you don't have the fruit in the first instance. One thing that happens when you put the netting, and the Chileans learn about this. It took 2 years to learn. We're going to learn before doing it. Is that you need to put gibberellic acid at quite a high rate when you put the nets on the trees, because by putting the nets, what you are doing is you avoid the bees doing the pollination, and there is an effect of bees pollinating, not making seeds, but just going there and going through that increase fruit set. This means that normally an apricot has, in a normal environment, in an open environment, it's no problem to have a good crop. But under the net is a totally different situation. If you don't put GA and a high rate of GA, because you need to keep in mind that the net is doing a screen. This means that you are not going to have the same penetration of the spray. This means that the Chileans took probably 2 to 3 years to learn this. It haven't taken this time, hopefully, to learn us, because I've been in Chile. I'm going to go to Chile next week. I know what is going on. Yeah, we should learn from this. And we need to remove them as soon as possible. One case, 2 years ago, in one of the orchards in South Australia, the nets were on, and it was high, and the nets, not the permanent nets, the ones that you remove, protected the crop, and it was good, because it did 2 functions, no seeds and protecting the crop. It's a good criteria. The grower said, okay, if last year I saved the crop, I'm going to remove the nets as late as possible. This means I have, for that period of time, I have protection. Wrong. It was for too long, and it get all the rubbing and fruit on the ground and all of this. This means that, guys, netting works, but we need to do it in a particular way, and if at the end it's so hard, so difficult, then we need to be prepared for the consequences, and we don't know which one, how low is going to be the price, and it will be able to sell the fruit. One thing that is important: remove sources of pollen. You need to think that at the end, it's not yes or no with seeds. It's a gradient, and we start understanding about cross pollination. And we spend a few hours with growers cutting fruit, boundary roads, in the middle, big fruit, small fruit, and there is a pattern. This means that we can start finding our way. And but one thing that is very important is that we need to remove the seed pressure in the orchard. We need to remove poor performance varieties. Unfortunately, imperial are more part of the past, part of the future. That means that you have those imperial, the old baggers that difficult, small size. Supermarkets are becoming more demanding. It's unbelievable. They want 60 millimeters in Diga. Oh, this is not an imperial in an old tree with a heavy crop that we had this year. This means that if there is, and this is going to be seeds for your reviewers. This means that think about the future. These varieties, all Valencia, all lemons with borers, with. I think there are, in particular, I think this year, water is going to be expensive. Then you need to get the best money for your droplet of water. That means that, and these varieties are not going to be. This is something that we learned the last water prices. We changed a threat into an opportunity. All these patches, and I think every one of you had these patches that they were removed completely, or better, top working. I remember those years that was so much top working. We were going from 7 megaliters of water per year to 1.5, and a new variety that was going to be in production a few years. It means that probably what we have left now, imperials are not, all imperials obviously are not going to be a top work situation. All Valencias, probably the good ones, were already top work at that time. All lemons, definitely with borers, forget about. This means that probably the option that we had at that time that was top working and it was done very well and helped all of us, probably now we don't have this option. The situation is a little bit more radical. Rate scale. This year, as Danny explained, we went to Spain, we saw, visited a lot of orchards, and the home take message was pheromone for red sky. Me, not being in the day-to-day in the orchard, in a citrus orchard, I thought, yeah, interesting, but I didn't went in depth, really understanding. And the message was coming first from the Australian growers that were there and said, no, that could help in our environment. And then that was a organic orchard. I said, and I know the technical manager for many years. By the way, it's an orchard that is 1,200 acres. It means that, yeah, it's a big orchard. This means that, yeah, and yeah, before making a decision, they think twice, and before spending the money, it means that it's a big orchard. I said, why is so critical for you, pheromones? You have oil for red scale, and yeah, should be right. It's not a difficult to control pest. We prune in Spain. This means that yeah, you have good coverage and all of this. So very simple. I only can use 3% of oil per year. Otherwise, the problem that my trees are going to start going down. It's too much oil. They need to breathe. This means, and I need the oil for pests that yes or yes I have to use oil. They said mites, and in Spain we have more mites than here, particularly on mandarins or clementines. And they said, yeah, since I've been using the pheromones and he was using the pheromone for 2 or 3 years, and they were the guy Antonio Caballero was the one that yeah really pushing these guys to develop the pheromone. And said has changed completely the way that I'm managing my orchard. And yeah, anyway, we took this message and said, okay, that's interesting. Let's see how it can work and so forth. I came here this trip, and I never focused so much on red scale. I was living on my understanding when I was the operations manager in the Mildura food company and seeing orchards and seeing the fruit in the shed. And red scale never was a problem. But at those times, we have a protocol that every year oil sprays, no matter what. And now, for different reasons, we're not doing this. We have protocols for China that we need to use products that are not helping completely with red scale, and we have this. I've never seen. I focused this year on red scale. I was thinking, okay, let's see how we can improve what we are doing, and I've seen problems with red scale that I've never seen before. We just put here 3 pictures. They are not; those are not the worst. And here you can see 3 generations. You can see the oldies, the parents, and you can see the difference in size. This means that yeah, it's unbelievable. We have farms of red scale. This means that it's unbelievable. Never seen it before. What it means that we're doing something wrong. Or at least we should do something better. It doesn't need to be necessarily 100% the pheromones, but there are other things, and we learn these days with Abel talking about pheromones. We need to understand better about how we can control red scale. We need to understand better. We need to review the whole strategies that we have in chemical applications in the orchard, because this is going to escalate. The problem that we have now is that every year we have a higher level of red scale left on the trees to start the following season. And this is a compounding effect. You have more, then and on top of that, we have longer seasons, we have more generations. This means that you start at higher level and you have more multiplication scale. This means that unless that we do something really serious, we are going to have serious issues. It's very important. Another thing, red scale is a quarantine pest. That means that, and as you can imagine, this is very easy for a grader or for a person to sort, but not if you have only 2 or 3 scales in a piece of fruit. It's going to be very difficult to see it. Impossible. This means that then you can then we can have rejections in quarantine market. Then this affects your reputation with your customer, because yes, you said that you were going to deliver container on certain days, and it's not happening because it's a stop in Melbourne, and this is happening to all of us. This means that this is a serious matter. We need to really think quite seriously about this. And now, your turn, Abel.
Okay.
If you can explain a little bit about the pheromone.
Well, we have, thank you very much for inviting from the first time. This work, I don't know, it's automatic work. It's new for me. Stop it. No.
You have to be quick, mate.
It's possible to see, no? I think? Okay. Well, repeat. Thank you, John, for inviting and Muir and obviously all people we have here. The idea we have is I worked in pheromone until 96 in all pest. The first pest we are working is Lepidoptera, because it's more easy to make it in chemistry point of view. But the Lepidoptera sometimes, obviously, don't have in any crops. Probably in citrus, doesn't have very, very higher pressure of Lepidoptera pest. But we have of Homoptera pest, is another factor, okay? The pheromones, we have a special, the text of pheromone is 100% compatible with chemical products and biologicals. Now, the new rules, we have combined 3 possibilities. Semi-chemicals, pheromones, obviously chemicals if necessary, sometimes, and biologicals. Biologicals products, we have insects, benefits insects we are using, sometimes we'll need it in grapes and citrus now, okay? Well, in this case, the first steps we have, or we need to thinking for what's happening in the orchards, we'll need to monitoring with sticky traps. We have all the sticky traps in 90s of the crystal and wood. Now is more modern, obviously. We have carton with blue, and the dispensers, they are similar, and it's not, it's crazy because it's not foresee very well. Stop it.
No.
We have the male, okay? With lupa, the male is too easy to see because we have in the doors a brown line. It's possible to, in the sticky traps, to come in another insects because we have glue, but for we have to see directly the male is just to, it's brown line here in the doors, it's too easy to see, to account. The idea obviously is started the control of California red scale with mate interruption. The name of product is Mildura. The basic appointments we have, the research we have started and development is in the past is using just for Lepidopteras and Caterpillars family, okay? Papillions. The seasonal pest or the making the pheromone is just for 6-7 months because The Lepidoptera, the papilions, in winter is go out, go to pupa, pupae, and go past the winter inside, okay? Not flying, disappear. What's happened in the Homoptera family? In the Homoptera family, now for the weather conversion, we are changing. We have now is flying every season.
Just so everyone's clear, the Homoptera is scale.
Okay,
Scale.
scale, yes, sorry. Scales and Mildura pest, okay? And, well, the different things we have here, research and development, now is innovation because the pheromones we have made it now is for all season. We are started after pruning and works 24 hours and 365 days every season. This is the different things we have in the Lepidoptera and Homopteras families. Okay? This is a permanent reduction system. You apply the pheromone and every day it works. The male we have this root, don't make or don't fly the smell of the pheromone of the female and dead. What is the difference in the Lepidoptera and the Homoptera? Lepidoptera we have males and females, obviously in Homoptera males and females, but in Lepidoptera flying males and flying females. In Homoptera families just flying males. The females doesn't fly. And in this case it's more easy to control. Okay? After this presentation, we have a small video, and it's too easy to see what's happening in the pheromone world. Okay? Material methods we're using is common before is sticky traps. We'll need to account these stickies with binoculars because it's very, very small. It's half millimeter. You need to, probably the young people is possible, but the old, nothing. Okay. John talked about what's happened in the trees. The last 50, 20 years, 10 years, we have a lot of weapons for control California red scale. We have pyriproxyfen, we have chlorpyrifos, we have oils, not coffees. I think the oil today is coffee, not oil, because it's probably to drink, doesn't have nothing. The problem we have is John sent the pictures in fruit. The problem you have is in branches, because probably the fruit sometimes is cleaner, but inside the tree we have a bigger problem. In 3 seasons, 2 seasons, if possible to see now this and this. 3, 4 seasons, 5, this tree is dead. Because doesn't eat. It doesn't see and other things. Cross the fingers, everyone. Stop it. No. It's impossible to see. What's happened?
You try and collect the
Right.
right, try and take the elevation off.
No.
This.
Top, very top.
We'll need to measure plane. Is auto review. Well, is review. No. Yes. No.
Perry, where are you? You know all this sort of stuff. You're an accountant. You got all that.
Slide. Slideshow, mate, slideshow.
In the top right hand corner, nothing there before. Where it said advanced
Because
after
it's-
5 seconds.
It's okay. You
No,
can,
okay.
it's still pretty
Oh,
well
right.
received.
So-
Yeah,
I don't know whether
still
you
is
saw
okay.
it.
It's okay.
Well, it's
Yeah, it's okay.
well. The idea we have just started here. It's impossible to see, but we have for the better control of California at scale. Now, it's possible to make it different ways, okay, or different rules. The first will need to the sticky traps monitoring. Why? Because it's the clear to see how is the population we have in this orchard. Okay? And the other things, they have the grid day, the integral termic we have using for to see the life cycle of the pest. We have all pests, we have life cycle. Okay? In this case, they have using the average temperature we have every day and account over 11 degrees Celsius. Under this temperature, the pest doesn't work. Okay? Started. If necessary to know what is the life cycle, why? If for apply the pesticides, we'll need to apply in first and second instead of the pest. If you apply before or if you apply after, doesn't work, nothing. Because this pest we are covered and it's impossible to apply with the pesticides we have in today. And combine both. We have in red, it's not animation now, but it is the flying. We have average flying in Valencia area, okay? The blue is the degree days. There is calculated in one season, is started the 1 of January of end of December. The life cycle we have in California scale is account 650 degree days, is finished one generation. In this case, we have one generation here, 2 generations here, 3 generations here, and 4 generations. The people means only 3, only have sometimes 2.5. No, now for the conditions we have, in the weather conditions we have now, is 4. This is Valencia, probably more in the south, Huelva, if 4.5, and Morocco 4 and more, because we have the conditions of if very high. What's happened? If you have the monitoring traps, you have the catches accounted. If you account after the peak 250 degree days, this is the moment for applying this insecticide. It's clear. After the peak, 250 days, because if the average to burning the first instance after to puppy. Understand? You have questions? Because it's important thing. If you apply here, doesn't work. If you apply here, doesn't work. If you need to apply 250 days after the peak.
So basically, what you can find here, what you can see is that where they've measured the peaks is in the orchards with the traps. They see what the males are flying. They work out when the peaks are. 250 degree days. So I think back there it showed every day over 11.7 degrees. We can work that from a weather station quite easily. From there, from the peak, that 250 degree days is the instars between 1 and 2, which is the perfect time to spray. So not only is this information good for pheromones, if you've got an orchard that's come off a peak here, with the temperatures we've had, with very warm temperatures going through into May, there's absolutely no doubt that we are having the same issues in our region with 4, maybe 5 peaks. It then comes back around and you've got red scale in the orchard ready to go for the start of the next season. So for orchards that have scale, the pheromones in the first year will not control it by itself. What Abel is saying is you come off your first peak to 50-degree days, you then use a product to spray to bring the population down when they're the most susceptible time. JC, that's right?
But this is totally right. And furthermore, regardless if we are going to use pheromones, this is what we need to do to control red sky. And we already had some discussions at MFC and Danny. And what we are going to do is measure all of this. We're going to put some traps. The good thing is that even you have orchards in different areas. It looks that you can have similar enough temperatures in around, the criterion in Spain is 10 kilometers or more. This means that we could have 2 or 3 points, 2 or 3 orchards in different areas. And we can tell you probably between 10 and 15 days is going to be the time for you to spray. And then we can tell you just 3 days before, we can anticipate in 3 days we are going to get to this 250 degree threshold. You spray that, and then you are going to have the best return for your money. You are going to have the best chances to control the pest. One thing that we are learning from Spain, and Abel has been very kind in explaining all this to us, and you'll see it later. In Spain, we, for most situations, we need to do 2 sprays for red sky because it's becoming so many generations. This means that before, with just 1 spray at the right time, you could control it. Now, it's not just enough doing at the right time with 1. We need to do a second one.
Yes. This is don't see, no, or don't see is impossible. This is December. December in North Hemisphere, okay? And we have another peak.
This is June here.
It's not thinking the people in December we have flying. Now flying. In this case, it's flying here, coming started here. And here is before to the next, because the females we have copulate in this December, in January, February is coming up. Not needed males for born the new generations. It's coming up. And we have the first problem. If you control well this and this is disappearing. If not control this, going. Every female is about 400 new families. It's crazy.
So it's 250-degree days, like when you're saying, okay, there was a peak in December, so how many days after is 250 degrees?
Yeah, but in December, you know, the normal things, the grower, in this case, we have pruning, we have the serving, not the spray now, okay? And in this case, can prefer to go started in spring for spray. Because now just have females, not the first instance, because the temperature is below of the 11 degrees.
It's 250 degrees, it's 250 days above 11.
It's degree days. It's
It's a bit different. So if the average of the day of the temperature is above 11.7, that counts. But if the average is below, it doesn't. So for every hour that of the average is above, it counts as a degree day.
An hour is a day? Is that what you're saying?
So at 20 degrees average temperature for a day, it's 31 days to reach 250
Yeah.
units.
I haven't quite got that yet, fair enough.
20 degree day, actual day, average temperature, it'll take 31 of those to get you the 250 units they're talking
There you go.
Okay.
about. So it takes longer in the cooler months,
Yep.
at least days average above a month.
Every day we are accumulate in, obviously we have, depending on the temperature we have, is very low, is longer, is very fat, is short.
Probably we'll put something together in
To
order
explain it,
to
yeah.
explain
Yeah.
and to advise the growers the best timing for the spray. This means that just for this, we are getting a lot of information, and all this has been tested everywhere in the world. This means that in California it works, in California works in Spain, it's going to work in Australia. This means that, yeah, that's quite factual information.
Well, I pass now 2 trials we have in this technology. This is the dispenser. It's too easy to apply because it's by hand in center of the tree, because we have see the woods and the trunks. We have the California is inside, not outside, and apply inside, and the height to arrive. After pruning, it works 365 days. This is we have 2 trials, but just mentioned in one. What is the strategy, or what is in this case, what's happened? Okay, this is Alcana, they have near to John home, okay? And we have, this is the orchard, it's 12 hectares. The rate is 480 dispensers hectare, and the strategy is the following. We have the problem we have about California scale in this is about 3–5% damage in fruit, okay? The commercial things is about, we have more too, this fruit is go out. It's not commercial fruit for fresh market. It's very strict. And we have around 5% and spray 2 times. Pyriproxyfen with Movent, spirotetramat. But every season we have running and coming. Why? Okay. The strategy we are making is, we have 4 seasons, sorry. We have, the first time is apply pheromone and pesticide, chemical. In the rest of the orchard, chemical. The second year, just pheromone here, pheromone and pesticide, and the rest, pesticide. The third, 2 free only pheromone, pesticide mixed, and pesticide only. If the rest, yeah, is combined 3 if free of pesticides and combined with pesticide with pheromone.
This is a demo orchard. It means that what they were doing here, this is not a commercial application. What they were trying to prove here is the effect of using pheromones over the years, and seeing how new years coming into pheromones, how was the effect in dropping the population of red scale. And this is what we are going to see now. It's a little bit difficult to see it, but yeah, we'll try to explain.
John, what was the planting density of 480 trees per hectare? So is it
This-
1 per tree, or every second tree, or what's?
That probably was every tree. Don't worry, we'll explain this. Now, you just need to focus on the bars, and it's a little bit tricky. This area here is 4 years, 1 block that has been with 2 chemical applications per year. That means that, and this is the percentage of fruit affected by red scale. This means that, and this is the first year, second year, third year, and fourth year with different colors. Then, where only chemical has been used with no pheromones, you have 2 applications the first year, and you finish at 1% of red discard. The second year, 2 sprays, no red discard. Third year, 2 sprays, no red discard. Fourth year, 2 sprays, 0.5% red discard. This means that, still, if you use just the conventional strategy of chemical application at the right time in 2 applications, you still will have presence of red discard. You are not going to clean this. Then we go to the other extreme scenario, which is the farm, the block of the farm, that the first year was done 1 chemical application to put things to 0, and then instead of using another chemical application, it was used the pheromone. The second year was used just the pheromone. The third year was used just the pheromone, and the fourth year was just used the pheromone. What you can see is that every year has been maintained down to 0. This means that in this particular, and those are the 2 extreme scenarios. The other ones are the farm, the blocks in the farm that has been getting into pheromones 1 year after the other. But if we just see these 2 ones, you can see that just the second year after being applied the pheromone, first of all, the first year with 1 application of the chemical and the application of the pheromone, you get things down to 0, and just with the pheromone reapplication every year, you maintain this to 0. 0, and 0 is 0. And you'll see later on with the video how powerful are the pheromones. This one, the first year is the second situation. First year, 2 sprays and went to 2%. The second year was done 1 spray and the pheromone down to 0. The following year is not required the spray because it's already at low level, and the strategy is just applying the spray the first year in combination with the pheromone, and after that just the pheromone on its own, 0 and 0. And then this is the last block that went into the pheromone, and that was 2 chemicals, 1%, 2 chemicals, 0.25, then 1 chemical and getting it with the pheromone, 0, and the following year there's the pheromone 0. This means that what you can see from and that's the reason because it has been sequences of getting blocks into the pheromone just to see if it was just one off or see what was happening. You see that once you put the pheromone, that year it gets down to 0. You can see it here, you can see it here, you can see it here, and every year after that, you can see it here, and you can see it here. That means that the efficacy is unreal. And keep in mind that this is European standard. This means that this is, if you are above 2.5–3%, because there are so much fruit available, the packers don't want the fruit. This means that, you are on your own. This means that that's the reason because we need to do 2 sprays here just to keep it below a good percentage. And this, most of you know this orchard. This is Viveros Alcanar. We've been in this orchard. This means that, and this is one of the orchards that you would say this is a nice orchard, a good orchard in Spanish conditions. And the difference, not just the difference in terms of the amount of red discard, is the simplicity. We know that a spray for red discard, you need to put a lot of water, you need to monitor the timing and all of this. You don't need to monitor the timing. Do you know what is the timing to put the red discard? 1 finish pruning. Because, just to avoid that, cutting 1 branch and dropping the pheromone that you put in the tree. It means that this is very simple.
So sorry because it doesn't work. It's too difficult to weigh. Just to make the video because it's very interesting. We are how we started the use of pheromones. Why? Okay, it's just to listening, just to concentrate. But
Should we give a quick warning? It might be an R-rated video. We've got some ladies in the audience. It only goes for 3 minutes, but
Japanese is impossible to translate, but it's just to see. This is a male. Approaching the female, we have make the pheromone for coming up. It's call, and the male smell and it's crazy. Yes, because the pheromone we have are similar to plum. It's not linear. Okay? This is the female, this is the reproductor apparel, and we have the pheromone, the secretion of the pheromone. In this case, we are mixed with dissolvent. The male and the female is picard. If you see the pheromone, now take the paper. Pepper is similar to the dispenser we apply in the trees. This is the male sleeping now and coming. Just the paper. Get up. Get up. The pheromones works. This is the message. Pheromones work. This is mine. Okay, this conception we have made it the novel in chemistry. One German man is Butemann. Butemann is the first guy we have started the how is the pheromone rules for making the communication in the same species. And this is a Nobel Premium in 1959. Okay? It's just that. Thank you. I'm sorry. I think it's a problem because it's made it in Windows 2006 and this is 2010. Probably is. Go.
Just a couple of comments on the pheromones. Red Sky obviously is the first one and the one that we are focusing, but you guys know that like Apple Moth, we have pheromones. These guys have a very good understanding of pheromones in general. They can probably put one for Light Apple Moth. They have one for mealybugs in Spain. That will work with half of the mealybugs that we have in Australia. We have some special ones that we don't have in Spain. The guys are happy to work with the industry here to find the specific pheromone because it's very specific for each of the different species. In the way that they're working in Spain, and is probably 1 year from being released, they're working with multiple pheromones in one device. In that case, you only put it once in the tree, and it covers for several pests. We have in Spain almost to be released the mealybugs with red scale. But then you can put light-on-apple and these guys can work for us, for the loopers, which is a new pest that is becoming quite serious and start creating the problem because we need to spray for loopers in the spring, and then you start unbalancing the whole orchard. That means that, imagine guys, that all of a sudden we can get all this organized, we can we can put all these pests, we can control these pests, and you've seen how effective is the product. You don't need to spray, you only need to put the devices at the right time and just let the pheromone do. It's the pheromone revolution. It changes completely the way that you need to manage the orchard. Then all of a sudden, the only thing that you need to do in terms of your sprays are growth regulators, things that are really for plant growth regulators, not insect growth regulators. This means that it changes completely the way you manage the orchard. It can be changed completely the equipment that you need for your orchard, because now if you need to spray red scale and you have 10 days to do the spray, because otherwise you'll be outside the optimum time. You need to have so many air blasts or towers or whatever for your orchard. All of a sudden, it changes completely. Changes completely. This matter there. I think we are in the right path. I think Mewers has been taking very seriously this matter, and we're going to have a small group going to Spain in October to find more and to work closer with Maso, and I think we have a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity for Mildura Food Company and Mildura Food Company growers to be involved. In the first port of call with these pheromones. We are working with Citrus Australia. We had a couple of meetings this week. This means that the representative of the industry are taking this also very seriously. We are working on different options to try to have the products available here, and this is a very good situation where we can see how well we can do together. This means that we organize a trip to Spain that probably in terms of MFC we were not focusing so much in terms of specific things that the grower would take on board, but involving the packing shed, involving the grower, working together, and then in that particular trip, Carlo was there, people from Europe were there, and seeing the opportunity in terms of all the good things that could bring to the industry. And we put the wheels in motion very quickly. Abel didn't know when I arrived here in Australia a month ago that he was going to come to Australia. And 2 weeks later, Abel had the flights organized. This means that we're moving quick. This means that no messing around. It's a good opportunity, and I think thank you very much. And the general manager of the company wanted to come. I know Albert for a long time, and unfortunately some family commitments didn't allow them for Albert to come.
Just decision, we are making around 40 trials in Turkey, Italy, Portugal, and Spain in the new tech to mix Mealybug and California escape and Lepidoptera with different of apple ground mounts we have here in grapes. In Europe is Lobesia botrana, is Lepidoptera also, but we have 2 or 3 millibugs in grapes now. And just started Lopesinos we have here, Caliphyzoidae we have here, Citri we have here. Possible to make it the future just solution by crop in this technology. Okay? Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks very much for that, Abel. Very interesting. Lucky to have him to come out and spend the time, and hopefully we can get somewhere with this product. We certainly see the need for it in the future. We've got less and less chemical options. We're seeing in Spain, Movento and resistance, the problems we're having, so we certainly need need something like this down the track. Also with John, yeah, just thanks a lot. We're very lucky to have you come out, and your enthusiasm, these things wouldn't happen without him. So yeah, thanks for coming along, everyone, and yeah, that's it.
Signature?
Oh yeah, did everyone sign the book as well?
Do you want to explain it?
Yeah.
Expression of interest.
So it's just sort of an expression of interest with the pheromones. Is there any questions on it before we wrap up? No. So there's just an expression of interest with the pheromones. So to get through either a registration or I don't think we get emergency use permit, but minor use permit certainly an option, or a trial permit. We need to sort of have an idea of who may be interested in the product, the amount of hectares as well. So if you can sign your name in the book, put down, show your interest, and we can certainly use that as supporting evidence to get some sort of registration through on the product in the near future.
Can I just ask now then, is the pheromone so specific that it's only red scale, won't do brown scale, cottony cushion scale? Do we need
Well,
to
this
find
is
the
specific
separate?
just for one pest, and if necessary, another pest is probably coming in this same device.
Yep. So if we get to the stage where we're relying on pheromone control for red scale, and it's working beautifully, we're going to have brown scale
Yeah,
and cottony cushion scale.
yeah.
Mm.
But probably in these scales now with oil is too easy to control, probably. The California scale now is very, very, very difficult. The timing is, how is the day if you need to start the apply? It's the timing. If you know the degradation, if you know, or if you find the traps, the sticky traps, and work the mix is too easy, is okay. This week is for spray, not after or before.
Yep.
It's probably we have, in orchards we have, the infestation is very low. Apply one times oil in the first generation, and is pheromone and oil is cleaner, nothing. What's happened in the future, the benefits, it's coming. Don't mites, don't mildew, don't wet fly, don't nothing. The orchard we have mentioned is in Valencia, in Huelva. We have 5 years old. We are making this technique. Now is don't spray, nothing. Nothing is nothing.
Because that's the other advantage, because you don't disrupt the environment, then you have the beneficials that are going to control the minor pest. That means that when these guys in Spain were telling that now they're not using oil at all. This means that they started because they wanted to have tools available, the oil available for the other pest, but by not killing the other beneficials. Yeah, solve the whole problem.
Now the new rules for commercialization, I think, is needed residuos, zero residuos, not organic. In conventional terms, zero residuos is coming. This guy, we have 1,500 hectares. Now the half is zero residuos in 4 years. The next probably, if pass 300 in organic, but the rest is zero residuos.
Zero residue, yeah?
Zero residuos is open the markets. I don't know the price, but open the markets.
All right. Thanks very much, guys. Thanks for coming along.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Bill.